Just wanted to do a quick little tutorial on how to cast on. There are multiple ways to do this, but this is how I prefer it. And unless the pattern specifically states a type of cast on that is needed, I always do it this way. So first you're going to need a needle and some yarn. And typically I put the tail end on the left side and the ball of yarn on the other side, on the right. So estimate, we're just going to do about 10 stitches. So I'd say about 12 inches is probably enough yarn for practicing. But typically I'll do a little swatch before I start my pattern to gauge my stitches. And whatever the length of yarn is that I used to do those 10 stitches, I usually double or triple it. Sometimes it's a bit of a waste of yarn, but just to be safe, I always do that. So I usually estimate a little more than what the pattern will call for yarn. But anyway, first you'll need to do a slip knot. The way I do it is I just grab the yarn in my hand, wrap it around 2-3 fingers, whatever you feel comfortable with, and then I take the ball side and put it through the hole that I've created, and then I just sort of tighten it, just create a little slip knot, and then put it on the actual needle. And again, you want to maintain the end on the left, which would also be the back side. So just sort of pull it, tighten it, and this is the same form you're going to use to actually cast on. Okay, so once this is on, don't do too tight, do a little loose, not too loose, you don't want it to just fall right off, but this is, once your cast on row is done, this is what determines your very first row. So if it's too tight, you can't get your needle in there. So again, you'll want your, I actually ended up doing this wrong, so I'm going to take it off and just slip it and flip it. So the tail end you want in the back towards the left, and the ball you want in the front towards the right. It just makes it easier. So you want to take kind of like a check mark with your fingers or a gun, and you want to slip your finger, thumb and finger, into the little crevice here, and you're going to grab with your other 3 fingers the yarn like this. So we're going to number these yarns just for the purpose of this video. I don't actually know if there's a numbering system here, but so you want a little bit loose, you don't want it too tight. So these 3 fingers are holding here, and this is going to come down. And if we number the yarn, the first one that's on the bottom of the thumb is 1, the one that's around the thumb is 2, and the one that's on your first finger is 3. And this here doesn't. This isn't in the play here. So take your needle, you're going to go under 1, over 2, around 3, and then in between 1 and 2. And then you're going to drop your fingers out, and then you're going to put them back in and tighten. And again, not too tight. So again, get into position. You go under 1, over 2, around 3, and in between 1 and 2. Drop out, go back in, tighten it back up. And again, you want to keep them loose, and it helps if you put your thumb or your first finger on these stitches so they don't slide around. Sometimes you're going to have to let go and reposition if it gets too tight or too loose. Again, so under 1, around or over 2, around 3, in between 1 and 2. Alright, we'll do this 6 more times. So that's 4, so this is 5. Under, over, around, in between. Under, over, around, in between. Under, over, around, in between. Under 1, over 2, around 3, in between 1 and 2. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Alright, so there's 10 stitches cast on. And then you would just turn, and you would immediately begin on your first stitch.